What a playoff that was between Tiger Woods and Bob May. And we see when you look at Bob May, he may have been unheralded to a lot of the golf world, but Tiger and Bob May did have some history, right? Going back to junior golf, Tiger knew that Bob May was not going to back down.
Bob May was kind of a big shot in the California junior golf circles and amateur golf circles at where Tiger was a few years back. And yeah, he knew, I think there were a lot of things expected of Bob May when he first turned professional, and he became more of a journeyman, I guess, if that's not too terrible a term, than he was as a great player. But he did certainly know how to play. And I think there was still a sense of, David and Goliath in this. And it's funny if you look at Tiger's career of playoffs in the majors. He did it three times, and in each time it was kind of an unheralded player, right? Rocco Mediate and Chris DeMarco were the other two. But I think you have to give Bob May a lot of credit for some of those putts down the stretch and trying to roll those things in as we saw. And I do remember that weird scenario with Tiger's golf ball kind of disappearing and then all of a sudden appearing and rolling down, rolling down the way we were. I remember being with cameraman uh, uh, Dean Willers, and he was the one who pointed it out to me. He said, "Did that ball just like stop and then start again or something?" And we happened to be in an area where you could see it. Anyway, it's a head-to-head battle that I think I will always remember going with those two players. Really, one of the most exciting playoffs I've ever seen for a major championship, certainly.
It's my favorite playoff, full stop. And I think what Bob hit on something so interesting there, Adam, and Dennis Paulson touched on this a little as well, is that if you look at Tiger's career, we're coming through a stretch of majors the last 2 years where we saw, Bryson go against Rory and take him down at the US Open, right? And then Rory get his revenge on Bryson at the Masters this year to complete a career Grand Slam. And Xander Schauffele throwing his name in the mix. And Scotty Scheffler always seems to be there. But if you look at Tiger's major career, through the big events, it was Bob May, it was Rocco Mediate, it was Chris DeMarco, it was Y.E. Yang. And, I remember vaguely a duel between Mickelson at Woods at Doral in a WGC event many years ago, and Ernie Els and Tiger at Kapalua. But for major events, more often than not, it was Tiger and a journeyman and fill in the blank who took their shots and didn't balk. And the big names, like we saw at the US Open, like we were talking about earlier in the show, the big names would go in reverse, Scully. And it was these guys that almost played with the attitude of, hey, I've got nothing to lose. I'm not supposed to be here anyway. And it was almost that type of thought pattern that gave them the power to go against the Tiger Woods.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, very selfishly, this is really my first real memory watching golf on TV. And Bob, I'm so glad you brought up that the wild break Tiger got with that tee shot on the 18th hole during the playoff. But before we go to break, I got to ask both of you about the iconic celebration, the run after pointing at the ball. I don't know about you guys, but that's the one celebration for me growing up that I tried to emulate where I was over a 15-footer and I was already planning my celebration out in advance and running after it and pointing at the golf ball. Mark, when you saw Tiger do that celly, what went through your mind? Because we've never seen someone do that before.
Yeah, and obviously we saw a history of fist pumps before that, and that was a new one, walking it in that aggressively like that. Ray Floyd was the first player I ever saw in my life do the walk in, but it didn't have the point and wasn't that aggressive. It was a little bit of a putter in the air and a walk in, Bob. It was a little less athletic and a little less aggressive than Tiger's, but Bob, that's why Tiger moved the needle. It wasn't just how he played. It was all this extra stuff he brought to the game that we really never saw before. We saw it in football, we saw it in hockey, we saw it in tennis, but golf, Tiger brought it.
You hit the nail on the head, Mark. I was just going to say the exact same thing. It was sort of almost an unwritten rule that you didn't celebrate too much because maybe you were sort of doing it in someone else's face. But I think the atmosphere that grew up around that golf course, around that tournament that week, and I think it called for it. I think it was great. And you look at how far away that ball was when he starts pointing and going after it. It's long way from a sure thing. So I think that was kind of the cool part too, that he knew it was going in the hole from basically the time it left the blade.
Oh, so much fun to look back and celebrate Tiger's season and that putt, one of the greatest putts we've ever seen in major championship history.